do you want to be a priest, and what was the impetus for taking those first steps?
There really was never a time when I thought about something else to do. The priesthood's always been in the back of my mind, something, didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I've always been attracted to the liturgy. When I was younger, I used to hide inside Monsignor Robillard's chasuble, and he'd do magic tricks with his long vestments, and it started with that, but there was never a time I didn't want to be a priest, and it really started to get fired up more in my high school life when the whole college thing came about, and I thought, what do I want to do? I never really had an interest in anything a priest wouldn't study. Thinking about college, what would I study in college? Probably languages. I might take French, but I thought I'll take maybe some philosophy, but I thought, wait a minute, you learn that in seminary. So I started going to discernment meetings, and thought, let's take the seminary thing for a stab, see what happens.
Awesome. What excites you about the priesthood, or what excites you about ministry?
The most exciting thing I can foresee as far as now about the life of a priest is being able to see the grace in the people, what the sacraments can bring. Hearing the confession of someone who maybe hasn't confessed in decades, and knowing that there's a weight lifted off, a burden, or visiting the sick, visiting the dying, baptisms, first communions, mainly witnessing and experiencing how the sacraments and ministry that the priest can give can resonate in the lives of the Christian people.
What do you find most encouraging about the seminary life or about the discernment process?
Well, I can't speak too much about my seminary life yet. I haven't been there.
You're the one, okay.
I have heard that the fraternity is good. There's some recommendations from some senior seminarians and priests that get a good fraternity going. Meet some guys that you can share hobbies with, interests, because the bonds you make in seminary, as far as I hear, they last forever. Discernment life, there's never a set, it's not a cookie cutter or a stencil discernment. For me, I'm not probably a good example, but I've always been discerning in some part. But there's some guys where it's a rocky mountain and others a flat land, ups and downs, and it's been an exciting time. New adventure. I like adventures, so.
How have you grown in your knowledge and relationship with God through this process, and in your knowledge and relationship with yourself?
It's a good connection to make. Before I started seriously discerning, about 2 years ago, I'd say, that when the serious discerning started, I prayed to God. I knew God was out there for me, but it wasn't until recently, in the past year or 6 months or so, that I realized no matter what course I would take, He'd be with me. And if the priesthood isn't my calling or my true vocation, I know that somehow God will have a plan how to serve His people.
Last question is my open-ended one. You can take it anywhere you want. What else do you think that someone who would be visiting the vocations page should know, whether it be about discernment, about the priesthood in general, about the process, just in general? Is there any other things you think people should know?
The whole discernment process, application to seminary, it's not as scary as you think. If you have a slight chance of thinking, oh, priesthood's interesting, even just an interest, everyone says, talk to your pastor, do that. See if there's seminarians near you, or discernment groups. There's some all over the diocese. Those have been very beneficial. Make sure you have a very nice prayer life. There are some days when, of course, you don't feel like praying, but even if you take 15 minutes or less, just a quick visit, even to a church for 5 minutes, for a holy hour, anything works. And stay close to Our Lady. She's patroness of the church and queen of all priests, so continue to pray for her intercession. You should be good.